Welcome to the House of Truth. Today we're continuing our series on the Acts of Moses. Last time we talked about the Ark of the Covenant and how this beautiful box's purpose was to hold the renewed covenant that Moses had gotten when he went a second time up, where he had to carve the stone tablets himself, but God wrote on them. And what was written on there was the same words Israel heard. So there'd be a testimony that Moses really heard from God, for they themselves heard the words of the Ten Commandments. And so the purpose of the ark was to hold the tablets, the written commandments. And the day we're going to talk about the tabernacle, who in like manner, its purpose is to hold the ark. And we're going to talk about we're probably about the tabernacle more than one series, but today we're going to talk about making the tabernacle kit. Because the tabernacle, when it was made, wasn't erected and put up. It was like a bed frame I bought, and really it was a bed frame kit. All the pieces were manufactured, but I had to assemble it for it to do me any good. Otherwise, it's just going to sit in this box. It's just going to sit in this box. They managed to ship it in, and it's the same way with the tabernacle. They had to build the kit, and then they can assemble the tabernacle. So today we're going to talk about making the tabernacle kit. And we're going to begin here. We're going to begin here in Exodus 25, verses 1 through 5. And remember, Moses got these instructions when he went up the first time. When he went up the first time before the golden calf incident, 7 pages of instructions, mostly about the ark, the tabernacle, and the priesthood. So this is where Moses. So this is what the Lord begins with the making the tabernacle kit with, is these instructions to Moses. And the Lord spoke unto Moses, saying, "Speaking of the children of Israel, they may bring me an offering. Every man that gives it willingly with his heart, you shall take my offering. And this is the offering we shall take of them, gold and silver and brass, and blue and purple and scarlet, fine linen and goat's hair, and ram skins dyed red, and badger skins and shittim wood." Okay, so there's several outstanding things we need to note here. And first of all, it's a free will offering. He's not to plead or make an emotional appeal or anything. It's to be a free will offering, not compulsed. No one's compelled to give. They give out of their own compulsion. And now look at the offering, the details of the offering for a minute here, because they're worth noting. And first, we're going to start with these metals, and you'll notice they go from most valuable to least valuable. And in practicality, represent the three main types of classes in a society, and everyone can give something that as well give something. Gold for the upper class, silver for the middle class, and brass for the lower class. But all of them are needed to make this. And these three metals also obviously signify something spiritual, of spiritual significance as well. Now, gold speaks of heaven, and silver speaks of redemption. When someone's redeemed, you paid for it. You paid the redemption price in silver, so on and so forth. Brass speaks of judgment. So there's those three elements that run throughout the theme of the tabernacle. Now the Bible has 50 chapters on the tabernacle, and we're not going to cover all 50 by any means, but as we discuss in various times, you'll see these themes running through. Now, the next set is these 3 colors of dye: blue, purple, and scarlet. Blue speaks of heaven again as well. And purple speaks of royalty. In Roman times, at a certain point, only the emperor and his family could wear purple. It was so expensive. And throughout medieval Europe, you often see the kings the kings would be wearing purple. Blue is actually more expensive than purple. It's takalet in Hebrew, made from murex snail, and had the drop. In fact, purple sometimes was often made from that as well, until trade with India established indigo to make purple. And of course, Brits had a boy to make blue as well from a plant. The Picts did, but at the time of Yeshua, those things weren't available. So this blue is the most expensive. Yeah, and it took about 100,000 murex snails. Each one gave you one drop to make a pound of purple dye, a blue dye. You had to do it on a cloudless day if you want the most brilliant blue. Sun's directly over it set. If you want the darkest purple, you can take that same snail and do it at night on new moon, preferably cloudy, make as dark as possible. So it has this characteristic of going from light blue to dark purple, and in between, depending on how much light it's exposed to during the creation the gathering process and the dyeing process of the clothes. But Scarlet speaks of blood, and these are also a picture of Messiah, the King of Heaven, who shed his blood. And fine linen speaks of righteousness for our not who is righteous himself, but for our righteousness as well. And just in the gold and the redemption from heaven that bore our judgment was the silver, gold, and brass. So they both speak of Messiah. Well, now we get down to the goat's hair. We get down to goat's hair, and the thing about goat's hair is extreme practicality. It's why you see all these large flocks of goats for nomads. The tents would be made of them, and when you wove them, if they were dry and the air was warm, there'd be gaps. Like, in fact, if you're in a goat hair tent and looking up at night, you can see some of the stars through them, through the little cracks in the hose. And that's in the psalmist says the God stretches forth the firmament as a tent, and kind of a reference to that. But if it rained, the hairs absorb the water quickly and swell up, and it becomes rainproof. So you got good ventilation when you need it, and good protection from the weather when you need it, without having to do much of it. Put on extra layers or anything like that. So for that reason, it's grown in it, and the main reason the goats were raised was for this. Was for this particular reason. Yeah, you could eat their meat and drink their milk, but the main thing was their hair, because it wasn't it had this great characteristic if you're a nomad in the desert. Now notice the next thing. So the goat hair is collected while the goat's alive. It doesn't hurt the goat, just combed out. But the ram skins, the ram had the dye. And what does a ram speak of? It's a male lamb. And dyed red speaks of blood again. So and the goats are often associated with people that are perhaps clean. They're a clean animal, but they're often spoken of as people who are hard headed and basically sinners, even though they're clean. And particularly, it speaks of Jewish rebels against God. In particular, it's used of them, while sheep are used to the ones who are submissive. Well, the ram in particular is talking about Messiah here, and the badger's an unclean animal. And so what's the purpose of their skin? Well, the goat's hair you had these layers going. You had these layers going: fine linen, goat hair, ram skins, dyed red, but they're not very waterproof. Then you got badger skins that are very waterproof on the outside, and they're an unclean animal. And again, they speak of the strangers, the Gentiles, who have not been circumcised, but who worship the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And notice the skins there as well, because the death of Messiah was for the badgers had to die, and in a sense, the Gentile has to die, as he can't continue on being a sinner of the Gentiles, and the sinner has to die for that in that matter in that range in that thing. The old man must die so the new one can be born again. The unclean must die so the clean thing can rise in its place. So this is this badger skin. And shittim wood, of course, speaks of the cross, that made all this possible. And of course, again, remind you, shittim, the Hebrew word's a little inexact, but most likely acacia wood. Reason acacia, it's kind of the titanium of wood in that area, lightweight and strong. Got the greatest strength to weight ratio of woods in that area. So that makes it very desirable for this kind of thing. Now, so all that was talking about the outer part, but now there's some more stuff that's going to be more related to the inner part of the sanctuary. Well, you'll see, or more the service of the sanctuary, I should say. And here's what we see as we continue on Exodus 25, 6-8. Some more things from the bring: oil for the light, spice for anointing oil, and for sweet incense, onyx stones to be set in the ephod, in the breastplate, and let them make me a sanctuary and may dwell among them. Of course, that oil, should remind us of the Holy Spirit, and this is what all these and the spice as well as the incense, because the Holy Spirit makes our life sweeter. And the incense got a particular meaning we'll talk about later. But the oil is connected to a piece of the furniture, and so is the incense. And these other things are connected to the priest. We'll cover them in more detail in our time. But notice the purpose of all this: to make him a sanctuary. For what reason? He may dwell among them. And this ideal has gone throughout the ages, and it's still a good ideal. A place that set aside for one use only, really, for meeting with God, for meeting on a particular day at a particular time. And this ideal that being among them was a form of how American communities and cities were built originally. First thing they were built was a sanctuary, a church building of some sort, or perhaps a synagogue in some cases. And then they built the community around it. But the place set aside, usually a church, again, the sanctuary, and near it a graveyard. So when people die, there's somewhere to put them. And then the community builds around it. And this is, common. This is the common model that went throughout most of American history. And it started way before there ever was in America. Even before Patricius or St. Patrick's time, a guy named Illit had brought the ideal over from Israel. And you see all these towns that in Wales, they're named their literal names, the congregation of so and so, for that reason. But this ideal that we have a sanctuary, a place set aside for God, is very important. And in your own life, you need one. Jesus had a place in the Garden of Gethsemane. Judas knew where it was, and it'll serve this purpose. And you need a place as well, a place to meet with the Lord, a place set aside. It'll benefit you greatly. Now we continue on here in Exodus 25. We read verses 23 through 28 about the first piece of furniture that we see inside the sanctuary. You shall also make a table of shittim wood, 2 cubits of the length thereof, and a cubit the breadth thereof, and a cubit and a half the height thereof. And they shall overlay with pure gold, and you shall make a crown of gold round about. You shall make it into a border of a handbreadth round about, and you shall make it a golden crown to the border thereof round about. You shall make 4 rings of gold, and then put on the rings of the 4 corners, and on the 4 feet thereof. Over against the border shall the rings be places for the staves to bear the table. You shall make the staves of shittim wood, and overlay them with the gold. The table may be borne with them. It's the first thing we need to know is, there's a number of similarities between this table and the Ark of the Covenant. And in particular, this thing of wood, of Shittim wood overlaid with gold. That wood speaks of man again, being of the earth, gold like streets of gold of the heavens. And so it's man and God, or God, perhaps I should even say, man and God both together as one in one entity. Speaks of Messiah, and the crown being King of Kings, and so and, there's a border now, and that crown is in the border of it. So it's got a handbreadth round about it. It's going to have a little bit bar sticking out with that, and you're going to put these four rings of gold, and you got four. And notice they're supposed to be on the four corners or on the 4 feet thereof. Now, I haven't looked into that. Maybe maybe I should say leg. If it says feet, it means the ring should be at the bottom of the legs. If feet's an accurate translation here, and it's got the rings of gold and the staves, just like the Ark of the Covenant. Now, here's a little picture perhaps what it looked like, and this picture's pretty decent. Notice these are pretty flat, and we'll talk about those here in a moment. Let's go to our next. Let's go to our look at the rest of what's on that table. Now make it a little more plain. As we continue on Exodus 25, verse 29 to 30, we read the following: You shall make the dish thereof, and the spoons thereof, and the covers thereof, and the bowls thereof, to cover withal, of pure gold you shall make them. You shall set upon the table showbread before me always. Okay, so notice, just like in the ark, the lid was pure gold. Spoken of heaven only, God only, being above Messiah, being above the one that was God and man both. And now we see the same thing here. There's gold, pure gold, items on top of the table. Let's speak of them. And the table's main purpose is to hold this showbread. Well, it's really panav is the Hebrew word. It means faces, literally. Sometimes it's called the bread of presence. Okay. The bread of faces, and there's 12, one for each tribe of Israel. We'll perhaps talk about that in more detail in our time. But as you can see, our picture of this is pretty decent. They're supposed to be unleavened bread. Sometimes, like in this one here, they're way too. No, they're not giant pancakes. Okay, those are way too thick. This is more the right ideal, and so this table there speaks of what? Well, if you think about bread and stuff, you think of communion, perhaps, of fellowship. Okay, and that'll bear out when we look when we go a little further. We'll look at where this furniture is and what its purpose is a little more detail. Now let's go to the next piece of furniture that's being made for inside the sanctuary. And you shall make a candlestick of pure gold, of beaten work shall the candlestick be made. His shaft, his branches, his bowls, his knobs, his flowers shall be of the same. 6 branches shall come out of the side of it, 3 branches of the candlestick out of one side, 3 branches of the candlestick out of the other side. 3 bowls be made like unto almonds, with a knop and a flower in one branch, and 3 bowls made like almonds in the other branch, with a knop and a flower. So the 6 branches that come out of the candlestick. And the candlestick should be 4 bowls made unto almonds, with their knops and with their flowers. So what you have over here all is 6 candlesticks, 1 in the middle, 3 on each side. And it's a structure kind of reminds us of a tree. And notice it's almonds. Very specific here, almonds. And one characteristic of almonds that stands out is they bloom in the winter. I saw a picture from someone in Israel. Snow on the ground, almond tree blooming. And winter's often considered a lot of cultures kind of a time of death because things seem to be dead and they're really dormant, but things look kind of dead and stuff. Then you got this tree saying it's like the tree of life. Okay. Well, in the same way, this menorah is a picture of the tree of life, but it has another function as well. We're gonna look at right here, and this is and that's brought here in Exodus 25 verse 39, 20 verse 35 to 39. And there shall be a knot under the two branches the same, and a knot under the two branches the same, and a knot under the two branches the same. According to the six branches proceed out of the candlestick. Their knops of the branch shall be the same. All of it shall be beaten of one beaten work of pure gold. You shall make the seven lamps thereof, and they shall light the lamps thereof. They will give light over against, and the tongs thereof, and the snuff dish thereof, and shall be a pure gold, and of a pure town of gold he shall make these vessels. Okay, one thing I want you to draw to your attention here, that's outstanding about this, is notice here on the notice here it gave the dimensions. On the ark it gave the dimensions. The other furniture we're going to look at gives the dimensions. This is the only one that doesn't have dimensions given, how tall it is, how wide it is. I mean, cubit, by the way, is 20 and 2/3 inches. We know this because of the royal cubit of Egypt, where they came out of. Archaeology has shown this definitively. So, this here's about 42 cubits is right at 41 inches, just right at a meter if you're metric. A cubit is 20, and again, it's right at half a meter of your metric, and a cubit and a half is, of course, 3/4 of a meter. So those dimensions are given, but notice on this, there's no mention of the dimensions anywhere, which is an interesting thought all on its own. But what other outstanding thing do we notice about this? Well, another thing is it's made of pure gold. It's the only piece of furniture we're going to look at. The only thing in the entire tabernacle that's not wood and gold or something like that. It speaks of, and again, it's back to kings in heaven. It speaks of those things only, and this perhaps the King of heaven. And notice it's the light. Okay. No, I mean, notice it says candlestick, so it's for making light, and we'll talk about that a little bit more as we go along. But notice the silver, the tongs, and the snuff dishes. Now, the tongs are the hold the snuff. The tongs, I'm sorry, that's for lighting them, and this is for putting them out. Okay, and they're also made of it. And the light was down all the time, so you have seven branches, and every day the oil will be refreshed. You snuff out. You start. All right, I believe you start on the right side. Then start on the right side. Then snuff it out. The first one, light it. Then go snuff the next one, light it, so on and so forth. So there's always six of them lit as they refresh the oil, and light never goes out that way. So even these things they use, even the instruments they use, and it's a talent, and that's about, there's a little disagreement on that, but it's around 75 pounds, 75 pounds of gold. If you're metric, that's about 35 kilograms. So it's it's quite, there's quite a bit in there. It's just however big it, after that's counting these instruments, however big it turned out is how big it turned out. There's no, again, description of the dimensions of it. And of course, and what's that speak of? Of course, without dimensions, eternity for one thing, right? No beginning, no end, no bounds. There's no bounds on this and its size. It's just whatever size it works out to be. But how do we know how Moses or whatever know what size it's supposed to be? Well, that's found here in Genesis 25:9. We got these general descriptions, but they don't always satisfy. Here, I meant to show you. Here, and here's kind of a picture of the menorah. Okay, one rendition of it. What it looked like when Messiah was on the earth. We don't have to speculate. The Romans hauled it off and left us a nice picture on Titus's arch on the relief of exactly what it looked like. That had a base similar to this on that relief. So it's not too bad, but no, but so this is what it kind of looked like to give you an idea here. There's the three branches except. But how's Moses know? Well, here's what they said next. Here's what God told him right after, to him, gather the stuff in Exodus 20 in Exodus 25:9, to make a sanctuary for him. Here's what I told him. According to all I show you after the pattern of the tabernacle and the pattern of the instruments, even so you shall make it. Okay, so the Lord's going to show him so he knows exactly what it looks like. That's what he tells him. And then when we got done with our the commandment, the description of the menorah, here's what he said: and you shall make them after their pattern which shown you in the mount. Well, then here's these two pieces of furniture I just talked about that was shown you in the mount. Okay, so the mount's being Mount Sinai. Remember, this is occurring during that second time he's up there. He came down once, the whole golden calf incident, had to go back up for another 40 days. Okay, so this is but this is during that first time he showed him. I'm sorry, the first time, which that 40-day period, as we showed, began at Shavuot that particular year. It began at Shavuot, and so 40-day, so during that 40-day period, God showed him these things on the Mount Sinai. And when he gets done describing some more about the tabernacle, here's what he tells him about how does he know what it's going to look like when the kit's assembled. And here's what he says in the Lord, Yahweh, Yahuwah, however you like, says, and you shall rip the tabernacle according to the fashion thereof which is showed you in the mount. So Moses knows what God said, show him that he did. He knows what each individual item that's part of the kit looks like, and he knows what the kit's going to look like when it's all assembled, what it's supposed to look like, because he saw it in the mount. Well, how did he see it in the mount? I mean, God could have given him a dream or a vision or something, but it's a little more involved than that, and we're gonna see. I mean, it's a little more, perhaps a little more literal, I should say. It was beyond just a dream or a vision. And here's what we find in Hebrews 8:5. Who serve unto the example and shadow of heavenly things, as Moses was admonished when he was about to make the tabernacle. For, see, says he, that you make all things according to pattern shown you in the mount. Moses saw the heavenly things. His example he's looking at was something that was in heaven, and that's going to be brought out. We're going to see that brought out here we're going to see that verified here as we look and see some things that are in heaven that some of these things we've talked about, some other ones we're about to, and we begin here in Revelation 12. And Revelation 1, verse 12 through 13, we find the following. I turned to see the voice spake to me, and I turned and saw 7 golden candlesticks. In the midst of the 7 candlesticks was one like unto the Son of Man, clothed with a garment down to the foot, and girded about the paps of the golden girdle. So these 7 candlesticks perhaps they might be even 7 of these menorahs, or perhaps all arranged there. They're arranged there in the midst. Perhaps they're in a circle around him, or perhaps he's just standing in front of it, and he's talking like he's from the middle of it. But either way, they're a picture of him ultimately. Remember, he is the light of the New Jerusalem. We're told in the final chapters of Revelation that he is the light of the city, and that's what the candlesticks are for. And that goat again speaks of heaven and heaven only. And he kind of served that role. He's going to serve that role in heaven in the future. When the New Jerusalem, when God comes to live among men in the future. So, it's a picture of him and speaks of him. He is that tree of life. He's the way of life. He's the source of, he's a source of light. He's all these things we've talked about. He's life from the dead, like the almonds that speak of life from the dead. And now here in Revelation 11:19, we see that piece of that the ark that we talked about last week. And the temple of God was open to heaven. There was a sin in his ark, in his temple the ark of his testimony. There was lightnings and voices and thunderings and an earthquake and great hail. Okay, two outstanding things I want you to notice. The temple of God was opened in heaven. Okay, so we're from John saying the veils are all open, so you can see all the way through to the into the Holy of Holies. But the point is, there's a temple of God in heaven. That and Moses is going to make it after that same pattern. He's making a cloth, a tent, version, and it's going to be a little different, but it's going to follow the same pattern, the same general pattern. And he's going to know what that pattern looks like because he sees that actual temple of God that's in heaven. And in that temple, we find the Ark of the Testament. Now, this people thought, well, this is where the Ark went. Remember, we talked about we don't know, no one knows what happens about in the future. Nobody's actually going to care because Messiah's going to be reigning the earth and he's going to perform all his functions anyways. But some people said, well, this is what happened to it. It's up there in the temple. However, remember, Moses saw the Ark and was make a pattern after everything according to what he already saw. So this ark was in heaven already. And notice also it's the ark of his testament, not the testimony. And perhaps contains the entire word of God, the Tanakh and the Brit Hadashah, or the Old New Testaments, both in it. Perhaps contains more than just the Ten Commandments. That's what's kind of implied there. So, but the point is, there's an ark in heaven that Moses saw. Messiah, that menorah represents Messiah, and by the way, that's how he need that menorah. He needed some sort of light to be able to see that ark. John would. So again, implies lights there too. As he's looking through as the veils are moved out of the way, he's looking through the holy place and the Holy of Holies to see the ark. Okay. Now, speaking of veil, we're going to talk about that veil here in Exodus 26 through 31 to 35. Again, John would have seen in heaven, and so would Moses. And here's what we find out about it. You shall make a veil of blue and purple and scarlet, of fine twined linen of cunning work, with cherubims, Hebrew, shall be made. You shall hang it upon four pillars of shittim wood, overlaid with gold. The hook should be made of gold, upon the four sockets of silver. You shall hang up the veil under the taches, that you may bring in there within the veil the ark of the testimony. And the veil shall divide unto you between the holy place and the most holy. You shall put the mercy seat upon the ark of the testimony in the most holy place. You shall set a table without the veil, and the candlestick over against the table on the side of the tabernacle towards the south. And you shall put the table on the north side. Okay, so this is that veil I was referring to. And and notice what's on it: angels. Cherubim in Hebrew, they transliterate it, and the English people pronounce it cherubim. The S wasn't really necessary because the em made it plural, Hebrew. But so what's it going to be on? Notice that there's one outstanding thing about what's hung on. Everything in the holy place and the Holy of Holies is either made of shittim wood or gold, except this veil, obviously, and the sockets of it. Notice there's silver. And again, that silver speaks of redemption. In these four sockets, speaks of that one that was with the face of an eagle and the face of a lamb, the face of a man, the face of an ox. That one that was God and King and servant and man, just like our four gospels. Just like the four gospels also reflect that. Where he's presented as king in Matthew, the perfect servant in Mark, the man in Luke, and God on the earth in John. And he's the one that brings redemption. So So that's why this. But and now the next thing worth that you need to notice is, of course, there's two places. The ark is in the most holy place. Again, the ark contains the tablets that have the word of God written on them, the literal words of God, written by God Himself. The point of the ark, which just means box, that's all the word ark means, was to hold those tablets. The point of the tabernacle is to hold the ark, where it is the most holy place. That's its primary purpose. Because we talked about how the ark has the presence of God and so on and so forth associated with it. Well, now notice this next thing here. In the holy place, what do you see listed here? You see that table we talked about and the candlestick. And notice the candlestick is on the south side. Well, what you see that expression, the sides in the north, that's because the Holy of Holies was to the north, and the holy place was south of it. And the door, of course, on the south side of the holy place, the door at outside, I should say, out to the courtyard. Well, so the light is there, and that light from heaven, that tree of life, you cannot get to the table without going past it. Now you could go in and light that. You could go in and take care of the oil on the light. A priest go in and take care of the oil on the light, and not go by the table. But he can't go by the table. Get to the table without going by that tree of life, the menorah, because that table is fellowship. They were to eat of that bread after a certain point. And it was fellowship with God, but you can't have fellowship with God without the light of the world, Messiah. And He's by the only way in. There is no getting in without Him. Now we continue on in Exodus 31-6, and we find another piece of furniture, the third piece of furniture. It's in the holy place. And here's what we read about it. You shall make an altar to burn incense upon. Of shittim wood you shall make it. A cubit shall be the length thereof, and the cubit the breadth thereof. 4 squares shall be, and 2 cubits shall be the height thereof. The horns thereof shall be the same. You shall overlay with pure gold the top thereof, and the sides thereof round about, and the horns thereof. And you shall make it with a gold crown round about. A crown of gold. I'm sorry. And the two golden rings shall make it under the crown of it, by 2 corners thereof. On the 2 sides of it you shall make it, and they shall be placed for the staves to bear withal. You shall make the staves with shittim wood, and overlay them with gold. And you shall put it before the veil that is by the ark of the testimony, for the mercy that is over the testimony, where I will meet with you. Okay, so I want you to notice there's several outstanding things about this. First of all, notice again the similarity to the ark. How it's going to be built of wood and gold again as well. Again, speaking of Messiah, and notice how as the ark was laying horizontal, and its ends were squared. Now this one's vertical, and its top is square. Okay. So, so you can think of it sort of as the ark turned sideways in that regard. But on top of it, it doesn't have a lid like the ark. It's not. What it has instead is 4 horns. Now, those horns of the altars were used to tie sacrifices. But there's nothing being sacrificed on this. And so why have horns on it? Why have horns on this when all you're going to do is burn incense on it? What purpose do those horns serve? Well, they serve to remind you of the horns of the altar, of the brazen altar we'll talk about next week, outside where the sacrifice was. And there's no sacrifice needed anymore. The sacrifice has already been made. And that sacrifice was Messiah. And because of that, the incense can be burned there. And it's when the incense is being burned there that the Lord speaks up from the ark that we talked about last week, from off the mercy seat. They can hear it through the veil, and speaks to meet with them. And this is what Zechariah was doing when the angel told him about John the Baptist's birth, so on and so forth. So, so it's a place. So it's this instance is connected with meeting with the Lord. And remember, again, we talked about they could meet with him. The ark could hear him speaking out from the mercy seat of the ark to give them instructions last week. Well, and that's when this occurred and how it occurred when the incense was burned. Now we continue. But that incense has significant meaning, and that's what's brought out here in Revelations 8:3-4, where we see not the earthly representation, but the actual golden altar, the golden altar of incense in heaven. An angel came and stood by the altar, having a golden censer, and there was given them much incense, and which offered prayers upon the golden altar which is before the throne. And the smoke of the incense, which came upon the prayers of the saints, sent it before God out of the angel's hands. Now we didn't see the here it mentions the censer. We didn't see that in the past we looked at, but yes, there was also just like on the table, pure gold implements on top, again showing the submission of the Son to the Father once again. But notice this right here, this incense, this censer. I asked some coals, whatever, saying light the incense. He's giving us incense. What's it with the prayers of the saints? So those prayers in the heavenly realm, our prayers are sitting up before God. Remember, remember the presence of God was in the mercy on the mercy seat behind the veil, but the smoke would go in there. And remember, there's little hose and stuff. Some of that smoke can get in the holy of holy places, and so this is why that's man's communication to God, and then God would answer back. And it's that on the day our prayers, when they go up to Him, are sweet smelling if we're righteous. The prayers of the righteous are very valuable to Him, but if you're wicked, your prayers are not valuable to Him. It'd be like lighting something that stinks on the altar instead. That's why it says the prayers of the wicked are an abomination to God. The only prayer you can make if you're wicked is turn from your wickedness, and repentance is the only prayer that God's going to accept from you. Then after that, other prayers will quit being an abomination to Him. But this golden altar of incense speaks of our communication with God. And of course, that communication was possible. You had once again, notice this was over by the veil. You put it before the veil. Okay. You had to go by that lamp, the menorah, to go to the veil. So for God to hear your prayers, you have to go by Messiah. You have to go by Messiah to have communion with God, to have fellowship with God. All this is pictured by this, and all this is shown in heaven as well. So Moses literally saw the temple of God in heaven just like John did. He literally saw how it was laid out. He saw these pieces of furniture and so on and so forth. So he knew exactly what it should look like, the details that aren't given to us that are there. And just this here is a pretty good picture of the altar of incense. Okay, give you kind of an ideal. So the incense is burned here, and here's the four horns, which again, no sacrifice being made because the sacrifice has already been completed. And here's one that shows there's the censer down there, and here's some of the dishes that go on it, etc. So so that gives you a fairly good idea of what it looks like. So now we've talked about the holy place, the Holy of Holies, the furniture that's in them, how it's a earthly representation of real heavenly furniture, and how each of those has significance where they speak of the Father and the Son. And And, the Son, of course, being the only way to the Father in particular. But who's going to make this kit? Well, that's what we find out here. That's what Moses finds out, I should say, here in Exodus 31, 2 through 5. See, I've called by name Bazaleel, the son of Uri, the son of of the tribe of Judah. I filled him with the Spirit of God, in wisdom and understanding and knowledge, and all manner of fellowship, to devise cunning works, to work in gold and silver and brass, in cutting of stones to set them, in carving of timber, working all manner of workmanship. Okay, so that woodwork, metalwork, and stonework, he's going to be doing. Now, his name means under the shadow of the Almighty, or under the shadow of God. Like he that dwells in the secret place of the dwelling, the secret place of the Almighty, as it says in the Psalms. And Uri means of light, son of light. Okay, so he's the son. And again, even his name is a picture of Messiah. He speaks of the tribe of Judah. The tribe of Judah, remember, Jacob had said, the scepter will not depart from Judah. It speaks of the king of Israel. Okay, that king of Israel who dwells under the shadow of the Almighty, who's the son of light. He's a picture of Messiah. And notice he's filled him with wisdom of the Spirit of God. He's filled with the Spirit of God. And as a result of that wisdom and understanding and knowledge and all manner of workmanship, to devise all these cunning works. And, I understand from a practical viewpoint experience what he's talking about here is this man, Bazaleel, was probably already skilled and probably been skilled to start with, but he's going to do something way beyond his own ability. I'm a software developer, and we had a team of 100 people. And I modestly wrote 25%, sometimes 30% of sometimes more of the code each week. Never had a defect in 9 years. That was not me on my own. I'm not that. I strive to do my best and be skilled, but I'm not that skilled on my own. Okay. And the purpose of that was I had these coworkers from India who worshipped idols. Some were Hindus, some were Muslims, and they wanted to know, how could I do that? And I gave them the honest answer. It's not me. It's the Spirit of God working through me. See, he was working through me for their benefit. They could see that they're like, basically, this isn't humanly possible. Yeah, it's being done. Well, they were right. It wasn't humanly possible on my own. The Spirit of God was working in me. And that was the whole point of all of it, to point them to the Spirit of God, to point them to the living God, so they would hopefully turn from those idols and turn from worshiping all of a misrepresentation of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And so this is the same sort of things going on here with Bazaleel. Again, I don't know what percentage I made, but it was way more than my share by a long shot. Now we continue on Exodus 31, verse 6 through 11, and we see the following. And this is too much work for one man. Well, he's going to get some help. Remember, he's only taking care of the metal and the wood and the stones. Well, there's other things needed as well. And that's where this other guy comes in. And behold, I have given with him Aholiab, the son of Ahisamach of the tribe of Dan. And in the hearts that are wise hearted, I put wisdom, they may take all that I've commanded you. They make all I commanded you. And the tabernacle of the congregation, the ark of the testament, the mercy that thereupon, all the furniture of the tabernacle, the table and his furniture, the candlestick with his furniture, with all his furniture, the altar of incense, the altar of burning a burnt offering with all his furniture, the laver in his foot, the cloths of service, the holy garments of Aaron the priest, the garments of his sons to minister in the holy office, in the holy priest office, the anointing oil, the incense, the sweet incense for the holy place. According to all I've commanded you, they shall do. Okay, so now some of this stuff we haven't covered. We'll cover in a future lesson. This altar, the burnt offering, and the laver are in the courtyard. They're not in the Holy of Holies. These concern the priests. We'll talk about those in more detail later. But notice, notice these things are made out. The majority, the biggest part of the tabernacle is made of cloth. Okay, and the cloth and that intricate weaving. We saw the cherry of the angels, cherubim earlier. Except he's got to make all that, and he's also responsible for the oil and the incense in all these, in all the garments of the priests, except. So really, it's about half the work, to be quite honest. Okay, so there's kind of a division of labor here between these two, and this guy here's given with him that, so he's kind of the assist to the other guy, his name means my father's tent, which speaks of the tabernacle itself. And that talks about, of course, dwelling with the Father, and again a picture of Messiah there, and of the tribe of Dan. Dan means judgment, also known for their cutting, symbolically symbolized by an adder laying in the weight, strike a horse's heel. We talked about that before. We looked at the blessings Jacob's put upon him, and the lion's whelp. Kind of that stealth war. That's sort of a special ops thing going on or whatever. But the main thing is judge. So the king, and it's a picture of the king and judge of Israel. The king. Remember, the judge could be from any tribe. The king and the judge of Israel. That the one who dwells in the shadow of the Almighty, in the tent of the Father. So that's who's in charge of this. But this is only two men. Well, notice there's some more here. There's just them. Well, they spend the 40 years in the wilderness just building this kit. But there's the hearts of all are wise heart. I put wisdom. They're going to have some help. We'll look at that in a moment. So there they are. They're ready to build the kit. They're in charge of building it, but they're going to have some help with them. Now Moses is going to tell is now going to go is now that here he was being told that when he was up there the first time. Now he's came back down the second time. It's been at least 82 days since Tabernacles. I'm sorry, since Shavuot or Pentecost. It's somewhere around the fourth, maybe the fourth or fifth day at the earliest of the 6th month. Okay. And here's what he says, and here's when he tells them this. And here's what he says. Moses says to the children of Israel, see, the Lord has called by name Bezaleel, the son of Uri, the son of Hur of the tribe of Judah. He's filled with the spirit of wisdom, the spirit of God, in wisdom and understanding, knowledge, and all manner of workmanship. To devise curious works, to work in the gold and in silver and in brass, in the cutting of stones, to set them, in the carving of wood, to making the manner of cutting work. He has put his heart to teach. They may teach both he and Oliab, the son of Asamach, of the tribe of Dan. And he has filled them with wisdom of heart to wear all manner of work, and the engraver, and the cunning workman, and the embroider in silver and blue and purple and scarlet and fine linen, and the weaver, and even of them that do any work, of those that devise cunning work. Okay. So Moses is coming down, kind of repeating what the Lord told him, but he's letting the children of Israel know these two are in charge of building the tabernacle kit, of making the tabernacle kit. They're in charge of it. So first thing he does is establish, who's in charge. Now he's going to speak to the rest of the congregation to let them know what they can do. And Moses spoke to all the children of the congregation, the children of Israel, saying, this is the thing which the Lord commanded, saying, take from among you an offering unto the Lord. Whosoever is of a willing heart, let him bring it in, an offering unto the Lord, gold and silver and brass, and blue and purple and scarlet and fine linen and goat's hair, ram skin dyed red, badger skin and shittim wood, oil for the light, and spice for the anointing oil, for the sweet incense, and onyx stones, and stones be set for the ephod and for the breastplate. And every wise hearted among you shall come and make all the Lord has commanded. Okay, so he's repeating the words that the Lord told him that we saw at the beginning. But notice there's no emotional appeal here. It's a free will offering. He brings that out again. He doesn't add to or take away from what the Lord said. Again, repeats them almost word for word, verbatim. And it's a free will offering. And again, there's no emotional appeal, no guilt trips, no, no crockett, no televangelist tactics to get people to give him money, just or maybe in conferences to get people to move out of emotion to give money. He just tells them what the Lord commanded. Now we're gonna look at their response to this non-emotional, just the facts appeal. Here's what we read in Exodus 25, verse 21 through 30, 21 through 24. And they came, everyone whose heart was stirred up, and everyone whom his spirit made willing. They brought the Lord's offering to the work of the tabernacle and all his service for the holy garments. They came, both men and women, as many were willing hearted, and brought bracelets and earrings and rings and tablets, all jewels of gold. And every man that offered up an offering of gold unto the Lord. Every man who was found blue and purple and scarlet and fine linen and goat's hair and red skins of rams and badger skins brought them. Everyone that did an offering of silver and brass brought the Lord's offering. And every man with whom was found shittim wood for any work of the service brought it. Okay, notice that they came, and notice their heart was whose heart stirred him up. The Lord stirred up. His spirit made them willing. So this is why Moses don't need to make an emotional pill and do all this stuff. If God's in it, it'll work out. The Spirit of God moved upon them. And now they're doing this out of a willing heart. They're doing this wholeheartedly, and it's from a willing heart. And note, I want to draw your attention to the fact that it brings up both men and women. In Hebrew and Greek, both, and in Aramaic, I'm pretty sure it's the same way. I don't actually speak that one, but Aramaic, if you see just a group men, if there's a group of people and there's one man, say 1,000 people, they're all women except one man, the masculine's used. So it doesn't mean there's just men in the group. But if there's no men, the feminine's used. So now in this case, it's bringing out that it's men and women. So it's not just the men doing this. And even where it says every man, that could actually be interpreted as a woman as well, because that preference for the masculinity when there's not when it's not definitively female comes through. So they were willing hearted, and notice they brought bracelets, earrings, and rings. Well, the women probably brought more than that than the men. I mean, in America, a typical man, often a husband will have a piece of jewelry on, often a simple gold wedding band. His wife will have maybe a promise ring, an engagement ring, a wedding ring on one finger. On the other hand, perhaps some more rings, earrings, necklaces, sometimes jewelry just attached to their clothing, brooches and the like. But the men are probably more personally brought the tablets. The tablets are, you can think of like gold bars. Okay, they're not jewelry in the sense of anyone's going to wear them. Okay, they're a way to store gold that's practical, and again, a shape of a like a sheet of paper, and you can stack them up, kind of thing is the ideal here. Okay, so but they both did this, and where'd they get all this stuff from? Well, the Lord gave it to them to begin with. Remember, the Egyptians they went to ask all their neighbors. They gave them their silver. They gave them their jewels of silver and gold and whatever, and told them to get out of town. They're afraid for their lives, and they were being repaid for the the labor they had been the wages they should have gotten in the first place anyways. The Lord was making sure they're repaid. Well, the Lord gave them, and now they're just giving back, and it's true for all of us. Anything we give God, we can only give Him back what He's already given us. It all came from Him to begin with. You may be like, well, I worked really hard and blah blah blah. He gave you the health to do it. He gave, if you're smart, He gave you the intellect. If you're strong, He gave you He gave you that strength. Everything you have that brought you wealth, He gave it to you. And all you're doing is giving Him back what he gave you. Give Him back some of what He gave you. You're not so they're giving out what they can. And notice that those who had this gold brought that. Those who had this dyes brought those, and the skins, the silver and the brass. So, and again, even wood. So and that wood's kind of valuable. But there's something everyone could bring, material wise. I mean, there's no reason no one had to be left out. Okay, from the richest to the poorest, and whatever they brought, the Lord had given it to them anyways, as I mentioned. But there's some more things that need to be brought, and we're going to look at this in Exodus 35, verse 25 through 28, and we're going to look at particularly a group that perhaps brought the most needed thing of all. And here's what we read. All the women were wise-hearted that spin with their hands and brought that which they had spun, both of blue and of purple and of scarlet and of fine linen. All of them whose hearts stirred them up in wisdom spun goat's hair. And the rulers brought onyx stones and stones to be set for the ephod and for the breastplate, and for spice and oil of the lamp of the light, and the anointing oil, and for the sweet incense. Okay, notice that oil's for the light, against the anointing oil, this incense also speaks of the Holy Spirit once again. Okay, Messiah being the light of the world, but our light. Now He's in heaven. Our light is the Holy Spirit, who the candle of the Lord is the spirit of man, lighting up the inner parts of the belly. Okay, so this all the work of the Holy Spirit who enlightens us. So the rulers brought these things, and these things all have to do with the priesthood and the holy place. But those are the women did. Now this is perhaps the most important one we've looked at so far. What they're doing is they're donating their time and talents and treasures. They have these expensive dyes. These dyes of various expense, and they're making them, and they're kind of having a giant, as it were, sewing bee, quilting bee. Notice it says all the women that were wise-hearted, young women, young unmarried virgins, married wives, widows, except young, old, in between. Women of every age, all the women were descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Remember, he spoke this to all the congregation. He told here all the children of Israel, the sons of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that these two are then. They told the entire congregation. Remember, the congregation includes strangers, ones who've not been circumcised, that live among them, like from the mixed multitude. And they're all bringing it. It's not just the work of Jews, it's the work of Gentiles who live among the Jews, and in their case, have adopted Jewish customs to live among the Jews. Who adopted many of these customs we talked to before. We talked to the customs of the law, because they're living among them, they have to observe the Sabbath, etc. So it's Jew and Gentile working together, and they're all going to have a part in this tabernacle. But if people just brought stuff and no one did all this work, remember the majority of the work is cloth. The majority, this whole tabernacle is made out of cloth. Okay, they had been at a long time without these women working. The men brought whatever they brought and dropped it off and went about their merry way. But the women poured themselves into this. Now, We're going to continue on Exodus 36, verse 1 through 4. And we're going to read about how this work comes along. The stuff's been coming in. The women are making the cloth. So let's look at how this tabernacle kit's coming, it's coming along being made. Here's what we read. Then wrought Bazaleel and Oliab and every wise-hearted man whom the Lord put wisdom and understanding to know how to work all manner of work of the service of the sanctuary, according to the Lord had commanded. And Moses called Bazaleel and Oholiab, and every wise-hearted man whose heart the Lord had put wisdom, everyone whose heart stirred him up to come to work, to come under the work to do it. And they received of Moses all the offerings which the children of Israel brought for the work of the service of the sanctuary to make it withal. And they brought yet unto him free offerings every morning. And all the wise men that wrought all the work of the sanctuary came every man from his work which they made. Okay. Well, we see the men here, first of all, following suit. They're showing up. And notice this, again, what an emotional appeal. This was going on day after day. And it kind of reminds like the Asbury revival that went on. Started as a prayer meeting and people just kept praying, didn't go home. And it just kept going and going and going. Well, that's what's going on here. It's the Spirit of God. It's not the work of man. It's not Moses. Moses didn't make a great speech or an emotional appeal. He just gave them the facts, reported what the Lord said, and the Lord moved upon them to do this. The Spirit of God is what's responsible. They're having in their own way a little revival going on here. But like all revivals, it has a purpose and it's got to end, and that's what's going to happen. We're going to see next. And this is Bazaleel and Holiab speaking to Moses. And they spoke unto Moses, saying, the people brought much more than enough for the service of the work which the Lord commanded to make. And Moses gave commandment, they caused to be proclaimed throughout the camp, saying, let neither man nor woman to make any more work for the offering of the sanctuary. The people were restrained from bringing. The stuff they had was sufficient to the work to make it, and too much. And that's the way it is. When the Spirit of God's involved, it'll always end up with more than enough. And Moses had to put an end to it. The people were just wholeheartedly going after it day after day after day. They don't have any individual level, don't have any idea how much more is needed, and they just keep doing, going. And he had to say, put an end to it. And like the Asbury revival, the president of the school had to put an end to it. They were there to go to school, and they had to go to class to graduate, and so on and so forth. So nothing, that's just the way it is. Revivals have a purpose, and we're not to be stuck in revivals. I talked about before when I talked about the heart, the spirit, and the mediator. When I talked that revival has a purpose. So, and it's the same with this here. This revival, as it were, has to stop this work of the Spirit because they've made more than enough. And so that's the thing. When the Lord does something, He'll give you more than enough. And why more than enough? Well, one, it may be you need future provision for something you don't know about. But it may also be to help somebody else. And in their case, some of the stuff can be stored up. The cloth's going to wear out over time. You're going to have new cloth set. But, you have to figure out how to store it and everything too. So there's more than enough. And perhaps, sometimes just distribute some to the poor, whatever, Moses may have decided to do. But it's more than enough. So that was their response. And here's what we read. And we finish up with this here in Exodus 38, 22, verse 23, about the tabernacle kit. And Bezaleel, the son of Uri, the son of of the tribe of Judah, made all the Lord commanded Moses. And with him, Oholiab, the son of Ahisamach, of the tribe of Dan, an engraver, a cunning workman, an embroiderer in blue and in purple and scarlet and fine linen. Okay, they completed the work that they were given to do. They kept at it till the job was done. And, the tabernacle, again, is a picture of salvation, everything. And we also, you know, the work of salvation will not be completed by us alone. But our fulfilling the Great Commission is like building the tabernacle kit. The tabernacle can't be going to be set up till the kit was done being built. Messiah cannot come. The end cannot come. We're told in Matthew 24:14, until the gospel is preached to every ethnic group. We were given a job to do to bring the gospel into all the world to make disciples of people from every ethnic group. And until the job's done, the end cannot come. We have to finish the job given to us just as they did for the next phase to happen. And we'll look at that next phase next week. So that's all I have for you this week. Until next week, shalom.